Hello and welcome. This is Your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection. I'm your host, Todd Pittenger from the Rockingham Media Group of radio stations. We've got 40-ish radio stations across Kansas, 6 here in Salina. Most notably, the bulk of my work is on News Radio 1150 KSAL, where I help out with the morning show and the news director, so I do the news as well. That's why I host this program as well. I know just a little bit about the news, just enough to be dangerous. So this will be a newsworthy program for us today. With us from the city of Salina, Salina City Engineer, Dan Stack. Now, Dan, I see you around town a lot. Typically, when I see you, there's a ribbon cutting or some sort of a celebration going on. I saw you at the ribbon cutting for the field house. There was a bridge we redid and some trails over by Ace Hardware. I know the Iron Street, when that newly refurbished Iron Street opened up, you were there for that. So whenever I see you, either something big has just been completed or something big is on the horizon. There's something being planned and it's just getting started. So we'll have a lot to talk about. We've got big things going on here in town. We've got smaller things going on as well. We'll start small and grow big. I'm interested in bicycles, biking, the bike lanes, a fairly new phenomenon. It's been several years now, but there's bike lanes that have been appearing around Salina, and I understand there's plans for more of those as well. Tell me about the bike lanes.
Bike lanes are on the streets, so
Right.
we have kind of a combination of bike lanes and trails too. So some of our wide sidewalk trails along Ohio and East Magnolia. And so we're kind of a combination with those, trying to make ourselves a much more pedestrian-friendly, walkable, bikeable community. So we have started about 2015-16 timeframe where we started marking some of our roads for either sharing bicycles or actual bike lanes, which as we progress over time with our maintenance program and we do some work to a road, we put the bike lanes in at that time. We try to do it in a kind of a systematic basis, and eventually you'll hopefully see them all connected and going somewhere at some point. Sometimes they stop now, but eventually they're going to kind of be all interconnected. So
eventually you'll be able to go all the way and across town via bike lanes that are continuous. Is that the goal?
That's the goal, yes. And kind of we have north-south routes, and we have the levee that circles around Salina. So we're getting almost complete with the levee that we can complete. We have to cross a few railroad tracks, and it's going to be a little tougher in some of the areas that we have. But at least the ones that are out there are usable and bikeable, and it's good exercise if you want to get out there on.
Sure. For those that aren't familiar with how the bike lanes work, explain to me the 2 different types of bike lanes we have and the do's and don'ts, just as importantly, with those lanes.
Yeah, along, for example, maybe Iron Avenue, we have dedicated lanes. So there's a 4 to 5 foot area there where it's really just for the bikes, and we try to keep the cars in one area and the bikes in another, and that way that the bikers feel safer and it's a little easier for them to get around. So, but at each intersection, then you have some areas where you're going to make a right turn, or you have to kind of share your road with the bikes. And so that's just part of being a biker. They understand those rules, and kind of a first come first serve. If the bike's there, you pull in behind the bike. If the car's there, the bike's supposed to stop and kind of pull in behind the car. And so that's kind of the unwritten or the kind of the etiquette rules for it. There are signs that we sometimes have to put up to say, share the road with bikes, and then dashed lines that kind of show, a vehicle can get over here, or they might suspect a bike here as well. So I guess that's the main thing that we have with the bike lanes. And then the bike sharrows are they're arrows with a bicycle symbol, and that's where this is a route that we've picked in Salina with a group of bicycle enthusiasts actually that ride these routes. They say, this is an area we ride a lot. Can this be more of a bike sharrow friendly road? And it's usually more of a not as high traffic road. We don't try not to put them on Ohio. Ohio's not a good place to mix bikes.
Or Broadway.
Broadway, yep, that's correct. So we try to put them on roads that are they get through town, but there's, not thousands and thousands of cars of traffic. So hopefully that the bikes and the cars, the vehicles can mingle okay and be safe. So that's the goal anyway.
We'll stay with kind of sort of the same topic, not exactly bike lanes, but trails. Let's talk about some of the walking trails around town. Wife and I, some of my friends from the radio station, we are some of your biggest users of the levee trail system.
Okay.
Absolutely love it. Give you an update on how that's going, and then an update. I know there's some trails over by the YMCA. They're going to be expanded a little bit. Some trails kind of down near the bridge, down near the river, maybe some more river trails. Give me a kind of an overall view of the trail system, the walking, hiking trail system along Salina.
Yeah, kind of the off-street trails.
Yes.
We have, we just put in a new trail, and city staff, every year we try to pick out locations that, for $50,000, we kind of every year sales tax dollars, so $50,000 doesn't go real far, but it gets you it gets you a decent amount of trail or sidewalk somewhere. So that's each year we do a little bit more. Well, this year we are out on Markley, and that's right by East Crawford, and we're connecting a subdivision there that kind of was a Lone Ranger subdivision. It's kind of isolated, didn't have really easy sidewalks, no sidewalks really to say, right off Markley. And so we've had some city staff that we feel like do a pretty good job of grading in those trails. And so that's our latest trail that we just built in the last few months. And it's just a lime screenings trail, so it's not concrete, but it's a decent surface that works on the levee trails and around Billbrook Park, you know. And so it's not concrete, but eventually it'll probably be concrete. But at least it's in now. People are using it.
Right.
And
how long is it?
It's about a half mile. So it connects the Magnolia Hills subdivision to East Crawford, and so it's a start of kind of a trail around the east side of town. Eventually, we'd like to go down to Magnolia and then to the soccer fields, the soccer complex. But you know, there's a bridge there that's kind of going to be a tough one to get across. So that's a bigger improvement. The trail that's kind of exciting for us now for coming up next year is our Smoky Hill River Trail along the YMCA Drive, back of the YMCA all the way up to Ohio, along Jeff Wells Insurance and behind some of those buildings there along Elmhurst Drive. It'd be on the north side of the river, and would go all the way over to the Y. The Y has some primitive trails back there that we try to keep up and people use somewhat. And this time of year they're pretty overgrown and kind of weedy, but most times of year where they get used.
Correct.
So that'll be the first kind of segment that we received some KDOT funding for that, or federal funding for off-system, what do they call it, transportation alternatives. It's an alternative transportation system. And it's really the start of kind of along the Smoky Hill River, concrete trail that would be along the river channel.
Because once it gets to Ohio, it'll then connect to the trail on the east side of Ohio, which then just goes up over in Indian Rock onto the levee. Then that's the trail I always go. We call it our end of the line route. Well, we jump up at Cloud Street. We go clear. It doesn't go quite to Waterwell Road. It stops just a little, and kind of halfway in a field near Waterwell Road. And we stop right there. That's our turnaround point. And we call it, and it's great because it goes right by the model airplane park also. A lot of times you get dive bombed by airplanes. So that's fun also. Again, talking with Dan Stack here, Salina City Engineer. This is your city in action here on Salina Media Connection. We started small. Let's get a little bigger now. I guess this is as big as it gets. Downtown Salina right now. We've had a project going on 2 years-ish. Major improvements downtown. And let's rewind a little bit and let's talk about how it started. It kind of started, it's been an idea for a while, but it started with the underground water lines needing replaced, right? I mean, they were 100+ years old, so they needed to be replaced. And then we thought big, you know what, instead of just replacing the water lines, since we're gonna have to tear up the streets to do that, maybe we think forward. And tell me how this all has come to fruition.
Well, definitely the water lines were old, late 1800 water lines. It's pretty interesting to go down and look at a water line that's been there over 100 years. So that's interesting. But really, the grassroots effort downtown helped us with, Salina 2020 and the Field House, and kind of just some development opportunities that seem to be at the right time for a revitalization of downtown. The last was in the late or mid 80s, I guess, was when some of the last renovations were done, and they were nice and have served their purpose. But it was maybe time for a fresh look and a new look for downtown. And so that's with the different development opportunities that are going on down there and the different types of financing that it kind of is available to cities through the state and through ways to kind of redevelop. You know, we do every town has to grow, and greenfield is a way to do that. But also, if you can find a way to redevelop what you have, that's really good for the taxpayers and everybody in the long run.
And so this is a public-private partnership.
It is,
also.
Yes, public-private partnership. So the city is investing quite a bit of money in the downtown streetscape, is what we call it, downtown streetscape, and it's about a $10 million improvement along the corridor there with some additional areas of the plazas and some of the
Yes.
the connections to the hotel and the alley and the things that are being built down there. So yeah, it's a major overhaul downtown, and it's
Specifically tell me how it's different. It seems to me the two bookends seem to be finished now, and you're kind of working on the middle section now.
Right.
It was 4-lane through Santa Fe downtown,
Right.
not so much anymore. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's with a lot of downtowns, trying to make them more walkable and more pedestrian friendly. And actually, Santa Fe has been a 20-mile-an-hour road,
Yes.
which some people don't even know. It's
Right, yep.
4 lanes wide and doesn't seem like it should be 20, but it's been 20 miles an hour for a long time. And so really, when you look at the different, the sidewalks and the corridor as itself, it felt like, really you can get away with 3 lanes with a turn lane, which helped with the parking.
Right.
The parking would be a little bigger. The sidewalks got just a little bit bigger, and then 3 lanes functions just fine, and it does actually kind of slow people down because you can't really burn past
Correct.
anybody.
Yep.
So you just kind of have to. Once you go downtown, you're going to drive a little slower, and you're going to be following people, and you're going to be having to look out for pedestrians. And pedestrian-wise, that gives it a shorter ways to cross. Used to be over 40 feet. Now it's in mid 30s, so it's just a shorter area to cross. It just makes it feel like it's easier for a pedestrian to cross and to get across the road and to park better. And the overhead structures and the crosswalks, and it starts to become a lot of landscaping to start to make it feel like more. It's not so industrialized corridor. It's a pedestrian friendly, nice corridor, and you're hoping that it's inviting to walk or to ride your bike or to travel to.
Yeah, the finished sections look great. Tell me about that. It's a mix of concrete, but the original bricks that were under the street, they had to pull all of those up.
Right.
They saved those, and they have integrated that into the project. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's a neat aspect
Yes.
of it. I mean, the brick roads we have a lot of old brick roads in Salina. And so
I'm old enough to remember brick streets
yeah,
here.
and I kind of look back. I've been here about 11 years, but I'm born and raised here, so I know a lot of the brick roads, and some of them we covered up over the years. And we think, man, I don't know why we did that, because that's maybe it was a good idea at the time, and maybe people like that. So there's a different idea that people that have brick streets, they kind of have some aesthetic appeal, some character. They definitely keep drivers driving slower.
Yes.
They're not very smooth, so you're not going to burn through a brick road very easily. So anyway, with downtown, the old brick street was there. We felt like it'd be nice to incorporate some of those bricks. Those bricks are, 100 years old, and they're arguably still in pretty good shape.
Yes.
They last. They're clay-fired bricks.
Well, they've been out of the elements for years and years and years.
They've been somewhat protected and covered up. And we unbury them.
Right.
We get them out. Whenever we find those in town, usually they are in pretty good shape. So if you can find someone and have the money to actually put them back down and that can do a good job of that, they can last another 100 years, we believe. So that's what we found.
Right.
And we're doing it right down the middle. And so it's kind of got the area where you're going to be turning or the trucks park for deliveries. It's not, you're not going to drive on them all the time, but at least they're they work well with the corridor and they match the crosswalks, and we're trying to incorporate the bricks when we can, I guess.
All right. Two-pronged question here. I want kind of a sort of ETA if everything goes right. When will things wrap up? I want to ask you that, and I also want to ask you what effect, if any, has this summer had? It's been an abnormally wet summer, and I know because we work downtown. I'm on the 3rd floor. Every morning I stand there and watch the guys.
Give you an update.
I give updates.
Guys are working. That's good to hear.
Yes. I mean, literally, they're out there working at 6:15 in the morning, some morning. But it's been very wet this summer.
Yeah.
What effect has that had on the project, and when are we expecting it to be concluded?
Now, we feel like we're lucky that this is a good contractor, and they're used to working in the elements. And the way this construction has gone, we have a base. Once you get the base down, it's a recycled concrete that actually goes down first. We put this grid down and put the recycled concrete down. And so really, once they get that down, they're really out of the mud. And that stuff is almost bulletproof as far as we're concerned. You can hold up trucks. It can rain 2 or 3 inches on it. Water goes away.
Literally, I've seen them bring pumps out there, pump water out, and then get right back to work.
Go back to work.
That's amazing to me when I see them do that.
It's working well. Now, there were some times, the winter was a tough winter, and you're working, the water line part, when you're working in the mud and in a deep trench, that was the worst part for them, is once there's a trench open, a water line, and it rains 3 inches into the trench, that's just tough. So they did have some of that, but they really were able to work. They kept working through the winter, and they really are on track. November 15th is the deadline to be done with the Santa Fe corridor.
Right.
Now there's the plazas and the landscaping and some of the things will still carry on into next year, but Santa Fe corridor. We're going to be
Traffic
ready.
should be flowing by Thanksgiving.
By Thanksgiving, and we want to be ready for the downtown Parade of Lights.
All right, that'll be the first parade back downtown.
That'll be the first
you know,
parade,
7th
yes.
Street is great. I love those parades on
Yes.
7th Street. Just they're not quite, the,
quite
same as a parade down Santa Fe.
Right.
All right, we got to wrap up real quickly.
Okay.
Other than the downtown, what's another big thing that you're working on right now?
Well, you'll see if you drive 9th Street. 9th Street's a mess right now,
Right.
but as we've, we have to do maintenance in Salina. It's nice to do the big new projects,
Yes.
bridges downtown. Those are great projects, but we have to also just maintain things. And so we've got curb repair and asphalt overlays going on around town, and you'll see those. And hopefully those are a pain in the rear, but when they're done, they're smooth. So
Absolutely.
everybody's usually happy with them, but they are hard to navigate. And one day you drive down there, the road's closed, and it's just hard to deal with.
Tis the season, tis the
way it goes.
construction season, but it is winding down
Yes.
as we get into fall and winter. That'll wind down a little bit.
Correct.
City Engineer Dan Stack,
Thank you.
Going to have you back again. We've got so much to talk about.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. This has been your City in Action here on Salina Media Connection.